1 month ago, it was the Holocaust Memorial Day in Israel. As a teen, I saw all the movies. I heard a lot of testimonies. I was confident that a version of myself 85 years ago would have been a partisan. I would have fought Nazis in the woods, at least like in the Inaugural Bastards. I would have done Aliyah by foot and build the country with my both bare hands, right? Well, I did Aliyah 21 years ago from France, and I was a captain in the army. I served the IDF for 10 years. Thank you. My grandma was so proud of me. She always told her friends about me, that I wear uniform and I have a gun, and I was part of the Inglorious Bastards. That's how she saw me. She was proud. My grandma was amazing. She spoke 5 languages. She loved to dance. She had a lot of hilarious stories. One of them that I remember particularly is when she was 8 years old. She went to school like every day, except from that day, she was forced to wear a yellow star on her dress. A classmate of her had the audacity to call my beautiful and super clean grandma a dirty Jew. Now, my 8 years old grandma had no idea what Jew means, but the part of the dirty she did understand. She used to say, moi, sale, means me, dirty, and she ripped that girl's hair. She did. It was one of her proudest moments, mine too. My grandma was about 6 when the Second World War started. They escaped France to Brazil. They lived a few years in Canada and then come back to France. My grandmother loved to be French. She loved the culture. She loved the food, obviously. She loved handsome cinema actors. She was a Mike Brandt groupie. She had a picture of him on the walls. It was like my father, my uncle, and Mike Brandt. Same level. Different worlds, but same level. She always had ice cream on the fridge, like nothing but ice cream. Chocolate and pistachio, her favorite. She had a bunch of friends, loved to go out. She was a cool grandma, really. Every time my sister and I called her and we asked her, how are you? She always answered the same. I will be better when I see you. On March 23, 2018, my grandmother was murdered. My 85-year-old grandma was sitting in a home by herself when a Muslim neighbor she knew all her life, I knew him as well, came in, screamed Allah Akbar, and stabbed my grandmother 11 times. And if it wasn't enough, he set her home on fire, leaving us nothing but the question why. Can you imagine a woman who survived the Holocaust, but still got murdered for being Jewish? To how many of you the name Mireille Knoll sounds familiar? How many of you heard about that? The Algemeiner was the first English newspaper who wrote about my grandma. They were the first one who gave her a voice. Unfortunately, her story is far from being over since the trial did not start yet. But I am confident that her voice will be heard again through the pages of the Algemeiner. The Algemeiner is giving me a voice for the second time tonight. And I'm thankful for this evening because I want to ask you two things. The first one is to remember my grandmother, to become her voice, to tell her story so she will never be forgotten. The second one is to support the Algemeiner so they can continue to fight Judeophobia with light. And for many other stories who have been and will be heard, thanks to you. Thank you.